Yes! Okay, before I actually start reviewing the show, I just want to talk about the opening, Zankyo Senka. The song is great, the animation is perfect, and it ends on the best frame possible. Following the opening is one of my favourite anime arcs, the Entertainment District arc, where Tanjiro, his friends, and featured Hashira, Tengen Uzui gather information regarding a demon in the district, much like the Mugen Train and Rengoku. Seeing the three boys dressed as girls to gather information on Tengen's wives' whereabouts is fairly comedic, and every scene was adapted fairly well from the manga. The animation this time around was very flashy during the fight scenes, and the Entertainment District itself is just one of those places that's always going to look pretty animated. This season definitely improves itself from the first in the movie, though with such a high bar already set, it can generally feel the same quality wise. I think Tengen's character also lends itself way better to the anime than Rengoku's ever did. Despite the feature of many characters, one was missing, and it was my personal favourite Shinobu. I'm pretty sure she shows in the manga, but correct me if I'm wrong though. I think the omission would either have to have been a time or money decision, because if you look at the voice actress's page, she does a lot. One last point I wish to mention, which I'm not sure if this was just me, but some of the scenes in the show looked a bit rough. These were mostly panning scenes of the district. I think it was because they were CGI and not drawn, but I'm also not sure considering I'm not an animation expert. Considering that all I have to say is the score, Demon Slayer, the Entertainment District arc, gets a 9 out of 10. Now, after my stellar review of the first season, and anticipation for the second, did it live up to my expectations? It did, but not how I expected it to. If you go back and look at my review of the first season, you may remember that my main problem was Senku, and his over-portrayal of himself. In this season they tone it down a touch, with a lot of the world's other characters chiming in to share the excitement, so instead of constantly seeing smirk overconfident Senku, you may see Chrome, Taiju, Kohaku, or my favourite, the old man, chime into the conversation, by either lending a hand or just in awe of Senku himself. I also think the payoff of both Senku and Tsukasa's strategy and planning lends itself to this incredible story and insane ending. I'm not sure I could have thought of a more incredible climax than what's been presented. I look forward to the third season, but also look back and see the first season, which definitely had some growing pains, but now the series has found its footing, it's hard to see how Dr. Stone makes a wrong move. Like many more anime, I'm excited to see the upcoming season that releases this year. However, with that said, Dr. Stone, The Stone Wars gets a 9 out of 10.
Senku! 俺は Senku! 俺は Senku! 俺は Senku! 俺はセンクー！お前はセンクーじゃねえ。センクーは俺だ。
Hey look, it's Dr. Stone. Yes, I did only watch this for that joke. Parallel World Pharmacy sees our main character, a doctor on what I will call Earth, transported to a primitive world to assume the role of farmer. This apparently important dude's son, but honestly, I don't know his role. Farmer develops medicine for all at a reasonable cost and everyone lives happily ever after. Isekais aren't really my genre, and this is a really boring one at that. Not to say it was bad, the story and plot both make sense, and I think the show is visually stunning, but it couldn't get me to enjoy it. Like, for an example, Dr. Stone has the stakes of the future of their world. Parallel World Pharmacy has a new villain every 2 episodes, so by the end the main villain has no build up and dies within 20 minutes of seeing him for the first time. It's alright to have the villain be put in the background whilst their main protagonist tackles some other side issues, but you still need to introduce why he is to be feared. Quick spoiler warning for the last episode, skip to the time shown on screen to see my score. In the final episode, a scene is shown where Charlotte and I think Cedric, but on my anime list there isn't any information shown on the characters, so I don't actually know it's Cedric. Anyway, they get poisoned and then Farmer names off poisons and eliminates them in a scene that lasts 5 minutes and sees the villain die at the end, which comes off as lazy and rushed as a conclusion. Overall, I think Parallel World Pharmacy is one of the most nothing seasons of a show I've seen, and gets a 6 out of 10 because of that. I hate sad stories, but I also love them. I Want to Eat Your Pancreas follows Sakura and Haruhi meeting and getting along with each other. Both are sweet but unique, and their personalities shine through. We get to see them visit each other in various locations, including Sakura's house, a hotel, and them watching the fireworks. The relationship feels real and is very heartwarming. It makes it all the more sad when you realize that Sakura is running out of time. Very early in the movie, it is revealed Sakura is dying from some kind of pancreatic disease, with the start of the movie showing part of the ending with a funeral being held for her. The movie draws many comparisons to Your Lie in April, but I Want to Eat Your Pancreas also has a few twists of its own to show as well, which I won't reveal, so just go watch it. I think the soundtrack does a brilliant job at conveying the emotion, so much so that I found myself on the verge of tears by the end. The animation is nothing to wave a finger at either, whilst it can look a bit compressed at times, normally due to the series being a bit older, which it came out in 2018, making it 4.5 years old at the video release. But other than that, I think it had a fairly distinct art style and looked very pleasant. Well, I think all I have to say is go watch it. At least if you like heartfelt teen romance. This is probably one of the hardest series to watch and review, so again, just go watch it, and the emotion you get will make sense, because it's like really heartfelt. Also, there's a post-credit scene, just don't miss out on it, it's really good. As for my score, it's difficult. On one hand, 10 should be a rare occurrence, but from what I've said so far, it's the only score I'm inclined to putting forward. Well, I think if I have got this wrong, I can always change it in the future. But at the moment, I believe that I Want to Eat Your Pancreas is a 10 out of 10 movie. You know, I think the second season of Food Wars was really good. Whilst I would have preferred all of the autumn cooking competition to be in the one season, they at least pulled off one of the better competition arcs in my opinion. It sees a 3-way finalist match due to a draw between Ryo and Akira, and in the finals, despite Soma's best efforts, he doesn't win, which develops his character in the following story, where every student has to pass a restaurant's test for the students. In this arc, we basically only see Soma's point of view, with the other characters getting a flash on screen at the ending, and that's about it. With Soma first put into a country diner with Erina's assistant, which ended fairly quickly. And following the completion of their task at hand, Soma is then placed with none other than Chef Shinomiya. It makes a good environment seeing Shinomiya push Soma to his limits, but also want to see Soma succeed. I think this season equals, if not passes, the first season, which is why Food Wars, the second play, gets an 8 out of 10.
北欧にいた時の彼をご存知ですものね。レオノーラおば様も。おばあ様？失礼です。己の若さ自慢するようなことさもしですよ、エリナちゃん。違います。おば様とおばあ様は別の言葉です。答えはいつも私の胸に。
I saw a list of beginner anime a while back. For the romance category, they picked the Melancholy of Suzumiya Haruhi, citing the show's simple story and there was a classic show that didn't have a lot of the fluff that future romance animes have. And now that I've watched it, it's the most complex romance anime I've seen. I think the romance elements are really subtle in the first season, leading to a more slice of life sort of feel. The story follows Haruhi, who's just nuts. She attracts people from her imagination around her, like a time traveler and a part alien thing, with our other main protagonist being Kyon, who is a normal person to balance the antics, and they run a school club. How? by Haruhi's brute force. It's fun seeing the antics produced, even if the story is just a thread. I think my favourite episodes are the murder mystery ones, but that's also probably just because I'm an Ace Attorney nut. Come on Capcom, where's the next game? Anyways, I think a lot of the show holds up 15 odd years later, but you can definitely tell where it's aged. Like, look how close the eyes and the mouths are, it just looks plain weird. Also, I just wanted to talk about early day waifus for a second. This is what they considered hot? Like, come on, by the 2010s we had hit characters such as Kuro. Never mind. I was surprised to see that the series had widescreen at such an early time to get support by video game and anime standards, and I feel that carries to the writing too, as something like School Rumble, which was just released a couple years earlier than this, feels so much dated than this does. Does that mean I think it's the greatest show of all time? Not at all, it hasn't quite aged like wine, it's aged more like water, it's the same throughout all of time, so I would recommend it, maybe just not as a romance. It gets a 7 out of 10. It's sad how relatable this is to me. Bocchi The Rock covers Shut-In Hitori's adventure with her new band. The members are Ryo, the loner, but likes it that way, and the people I envy, Nijika and who can carry a social setting, which is more than I can say for myself. I like the issues covered a lot, with it all being very relatable for someone who spends more time in their room making these videos than with friends. I can't comment much on story, basically because it just boils down to problem, social anxiety, overcome fear. But the series does well to still see the character development of Bocchi, who would barely leave her room at the beginning. Follow that up with her performing at an event. It shows her fears being eased as she continues to do more with her band. The art style is pretty good, I like the more unique designs, but I wish they just went a little bit further visually. The soundtrack is interesting, normally I find singing during a show kinda cringy, however Bocchi pulls it off. Though this is at the expense of a decent opening and ending, which I'm okay with. I think that the songs the band performs are way more important than the openings and endings, at least for this show. Something that I didn't mention in my Dr. Stone review is that I pretty much skipped over the song that Lillian, a US singer in the show, sung, which they played in the first season, but in the second it becomes a whole plot point. I just didn't think it was good, plain and simple. Anyways, I got off track there. All you need to know is that the band songs are good. One final thing I noticed about the series is Bocchi would have anxiety breakdowns and sometimes they would show a mind trip, which was done in a completely different animation style, which I commend the series for. It looks great and depicts the scenes perfectly. Bocchi The Rock. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it cringe? Yes, maybe, definitely. But I had fun with the show and that's all I ask, since clearly I'm not made out for hardcore anime. It gets an 8 out of 10 from me, probably the 20th time I said that. Can you believe I haven't given a show below a 5?
何やってんの？バンドマンとしての成長を見た目で表現だそうです。
Now, I don't want to get into a discussion today about how anime films take forever to come to streaming services, but I did have to watch this in cinemas, which is why right now I might be playing trailer clips instead of the show, because I can't download it. Anyways, besides that annoyance, I love the film. It carries on from the end of the last season and turns Kaguya into a child for a bit, which was pretty entertaining. The film focuses on both Shirogane and Shinomiya's mental battle, each wanting the answer of where they stand with each other. Kaguya's battle pulls more screen time with the return of the Kaguya, and the return of some aspects we haven't seen the series do since the first season return. The art style is one of my personal favourites, though that may be a little bit biased due to this being the series that got me into watching anime and starting to do these videos. Though the opening and credits theme held themselves in terms of the soundtrack too. Something I found odd is the amount of sex jokes at the beginning. It was funny, just a little out of character for the series. During my watch, I noticed tons of callbacks and references, which I think the third season may have done a better job of, but the movie still shows a lot. I watched this with people unfamiliar to the series, and after the credits rolled, I asked for their thoughts. Most said it was alright, which, for not having any prior knowledge on the series, is pretty good. Overall, this series has to be one of, if not my favourite, which is why Kaguya-Sama Love is War, The First Kiss That Never Ends, gets a 10 out of 10 from me. I can't wait for the continuation with the speculated 4th season coming. I guess I'll just have to wait and see.
おかわいいこと。
Wow, if I thought Edge Runners was short, I had no clue about this. Labeled as a TV series, Nekomonogatari Kuro, or Black in English, covers the final monogatari release for the first season of books. Canonically, the order is Kizu, Neko, Bake, and then Nisei Monogatari, but wherever you look, you'll find a different watch order for the series. This is also not the last monogatari, as depicted by this chart. I have many left to watch and enjoy. The story of this time sees us look through the flashbacks seen in Bake Monogatari of how Hanekawa adopted the cat oddity. The season has kept the high standards seen in seasons past, with the animation and sounds being as strong as ever and keeping it small yet likeable cast. The 6-character cast this time has the 3 Araragi siblings, Oshino, Shinobu, and Hanekawa. These 6 form what I would call the core cast, with each appearing in all Monogatari seasons so far, besides Oshino and Nisei Monogatari after leaving towards the end of Bake Monogatari. 4 episodes isn't a lot to talk about, but I think it's at least worth mentioning the opening theme, which I think is one of the series' weakest, though I'm inclined to believe that's due to my preference of J-pop music over the softer styles, rather than a bad song. I'm excited to continue the series, as I am many others, but Nekomonogatari Kuro is worth an 8 out of 10.
まずは地球にも匹敵するスケールのストレスから解放してやるところから始めよう。
What the f? Move over Domestic Girlfriend! I think we have a new winner for the show with the most f***ed up concept, that being this. Now, obviously Domestic Girlfriend has some glaring moral issues, which are most definitely worse, but the drama in this show brings is on a whole nother level. How does it achieve this? Well, in Akiba, a new maid joins a cafe, which we follow as our main protagonist, though we do also follow the other cafe staff during the show. She is shown as very innocent, but by the end of the first episode, the opening clip I put for the show happens, showing the true rigors of being a maid. Nagumi, our protagonist's name, never really learns and is always put as the voice's piece, even when the situation doesn't call for it, besides the 5 minutes she does. I think her character works fine at times, but I also just wish she would shut up just as much of the time, if not more. Following this, we get to see the cafe's antics, with battles against rival organizations and cafes being a key centerpiece. I think the series fails to have any resemblance of a story, with each episode itself being its own story that they could have had a few episodes on, creating a more tightened plot and story. It feels much more like an episode of Family Guy, or The Simpsons, where the whole plot point happens in an episode, leading to the series to be able to be watched in no particular order. Except the status quo in this never resets. These characters are always changing and lore drops throughout, like the Blue Maid and Nagumi becoming friends. An episode idea that I think would have been better as a multiple episode arc would be the casino one. The first part would be about the manager of the Oinky Doink Cafe losing the money. Oh, by the way, that's the name of the cafe the characters work at. Pretty stupid, I know. But anyway, then the second part would be about trying to get the money back. And if 2 parts wasn't enough, the final part could have been the poker scene, which was honestly like 30 seconds of screen time for something that weighs way more importance on the characters than 30 seconds of screen time. Similar things can be said for the boxing bit as well. Another point to make is, how did they manage to make the protagonist look ugly? I kid you not, in the title image, Nagumi looks like she's moaning. In the show, she looks a bit better, but then when she's out of the costume, she looks like someone who could actually be a waifu. Isn't the whole point of a maid dress to make a girl look more attractive and entice them to visit? Like, no wonder this is supposed to be the lowest rated cafe in the universe. I understand the other characters though. Yumechi is the token of the maid cafe, thus she is the nicest looking, and the others aren't made to look as appealing as part of their characters. As already the longest segment in the script, why do I care so much? The answer's pretty simple. I saw the potential of the series to be my favorite, much like how Eromanga Sensei took a place in my heart, despite the wider opinion on it. Akiba Maid War, however, had killer pacing issues, an unappealing design for the main cast of maids, and an overall lack of quality. But it did have a killer soundtrack, with the opening, ending, and first episode insert song all practically being perfect for the series, even though almost none of it I would listen to on its own. And that's Akiba Maid War. I doubt we ever see anything from the series again, seeing as it was an anime original and got lackluster scores for anime standards, but I'm glad I watched it. I believe that Akiba Maid War deserves a score of 7 out of 10.
あの二人帰ってこれっかな。帰ってこなくていいよ。仕事できないし。夢チクール。
なあ、お前ら奇跡って信じるか？
Yo, that was a lot to talk about and get through, but I think this was my favorite episode to work on. Having 9 to 10 shows is a rare occurrence for the series, as I like to watch some longer and shorter shows, but this month mostly had movies or 12 episode shows, only Haruhi getting past that with 14. As for next month, I won't tease too much, mostly because I'm writing this before finishing the shows I finished at the end of this month. If you enjoyed, I would appreciate a like, comment and or subscription. To me it shows whether I've done a good job putting these together, and feedback in the comments is always appreciated. I tend to look through and reply to those. If you want to hear from me more, my socials are down below, with Twitch streams happening at 8 PM Australian Eastern Daylight Time, where I mostly play Osu and occasionally speedrun Mario 64 and do other stuff. My Twitter, where you can see me occasionally say random things. And finally, thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!